Elite thinkers take radical responsibility for their lives, and that single decision quietly separates them from the rest of the world. They do not wait for permission, timing, or perfect conditions. They understand that responsibility is not a burden, it is freedom. The moment you fully accept that where you are is a result of your choices, you also accept that where you go next is within your control. Most people resist this truth because it's uncomfortable. Responsibility removes excuses, and excuses are comforting. But elite thinkers know comfort is dangerous. They don't blame their past even if it was unfair. They don't blame their parents even if they were limited. They don't blame the economy, the system, or bad luck even when those things are real. They acknowledge reality without surrendering to it. They say, "This is what is," and then immediately ask, "What can I do with it?" That mindset creates momentum. Blame creates paralysis. Radical responsibility means understanding that your reactions matter more than your circumstances. Two people can face the same obstacle, one becomes bitter, the other becomes better. The difference is not intelligence, resources, or talent. The difference is ownership. Elite thinkers refuse to see themselves as victims of life. Victims wait, owners build. They know that every result has a cause, and if they don't like the result, they search for the cause in their own behavior first, not in judgment but in honesty. This level of self-awareness is rare because it requires humility. It requires admitting, "I played a role in this," and that admission is powerful because it puts the steering wheel back in your hands. Elite thinkers also understand that responsibility extends beyond actions to thoughts. They don't allow their inner dialogue to run wild. They don't indulge in constant self-pity, complaining, or mental chaos. They train their mind to ask better questions. Instead of "Why is this happening to me?" they ask, "What is this preparing me for?" Instead of "Why am I behind?" They ask, "What should I double down on right now?" Their thinking is intentional, not automatic. They don't confuse feelings with facts. Just because something feels hard doesn't mean it's wrong. Just because they feel afraid doesn't mean they stop. Radical responsibility means acting based on principles, not emotions. Emotions are temporary. Principles build permanent results. Elite thinkers also take responsibility for their growth. They don't wait for someone to motivate them, rescue them, or believe in them. They don't outsource their discipline. They read when others scroll. They practice when others procrastinate. They invest in skills instead of distractions. They understand that no one is coming to save them, and instead of feeling abandoned by that truth, they feel empowered by it. When they fail, they don't hide. They analyze. Failure is data, not identity. They ask, "What broke down? What did I underestimate? What can I do differently next time?" This turns setbacks into strategy. While others repeat the same mistakes and call it bad luck, elite thinkers refine their approach and move forward smarter. Radical responsibility also shows up in consistency. Elite thinkers don't rely on motivation because motivation is unreliable. They rely on standards. They show up even when it's inconvenient. They keep promises to themselves, especially the small ones. They know self-trust is built through follow-through, and without self-trust, confidence is fake. They don't waste energy complaining about how hard the path is. They chose the path. They understand that difficulty is not a sign to quit, it's proof they're doing something meaningful. Average minds want easy. Elite minds want progress. Over time, this mindset compounds. Responsibility creates discipline. Discipline creates skill. Skill creates confidence. Confidence creates opportunity. And suddenly, from the outside, it looks like things just worked out for them. But nothing was accidental. Every win was preceded by ownership when quitting would have been easier. Elite thinkers know that life doesn't reward intentions, it rewards execution. And execution begins with responsibility. When you stop blaming, stop waiting, and stop negotiating with your potential, everything changes. You move faster, you think clearer, you stand taller. Radical responsibility is not about being harsh with yourself. It's about being honest with yourself. It's about deciding that your future deserves your full ownership. And the moment you make that decision, you separate from the crowd not loudly, not instantly, but permanently. The 1% think in systems and long-term leverage, not short-term emotions, and this alone creates a quiet but unstoppable advantage. While most people react to what they feel in the moment, elite thinkers design structures that carry them forward regardless of mood, fear, or excitement. They understand that emotions are temporary, but systems endure. Feelings rise and fall, systems compound, average thinking is reactive, something feels good, so they chase it, something feels uncomfortable, so they avoid it. Decisions are made based on relief, approval, or urgency. Elite thinking is deliberate. It asks what will still matter in 5 years, not 5 minutes. The 1% are willing to feel temporary discomfort in exchange for permanent progress. Systems are how they remove friction from success. They don't rely on willpower because willpower is inconsistent. They build routines, environments, and rules that make the right actions automatic. When others wake up and decide whether they feel like showing up, elite thinkers already have a process in place. There is no debate, the system decides. Long-term leverage is at the center of everything they do. They focus on actions that create outsized results over time, skills that compound, relationships that deepen, knowledge that stacks, habits that reinforce each other. They know that one well-built system can outperform years of scattered effort driven by emotion. Short-term emotions are expensive. They lead people to quit too early, chase trends, overspend energy, and abandon strategies before results appear. The 1% understand that progress often looks slow before it looks obvious. They stay patient while others panic. They stay focused while others chase the next shiny option. Elite thinkers also separate identity from emotion. They don't say, "I feel tired, so I stop." They say, "I'm the type of person who follows the system." The system doesn't care how they feel. It only cares that the work gets done. This creates stability. Stability creates momentum. Momentum creates results. They design their days around leverage, not busyness. They don't try to do everything. They do the few things that move everything else. While the crowd celebrates hustle, elite thinkers protect clarity. They measure success by output and impact, not effort and exhaustion. Long-term leverage also means thinking beyond immediate rewards. The 1% are willing to delay gratification because they understand compounding. Small, consistent actions repeated over time outperform dramatic bursts of emotional effort. They trust the process even when the results are invisible. Especially when the results are invisible, emotions are not ignored, they are managed. Elite thinkers acknowledge fear, doubt, and frustration without letting those emotions drive decisions. They pause, zoom out, and return to principle. What aligns with the system, what supports the long-term goal, that question becomes the filter for every move. Over time, this way of thinking creates separation. While others live in cycles of motivation and burnout, the 1% move steadily forward. While others react, they execute. While others chase feelings, they build frameworks. From the outside, it can look boring, repetitive, unexciting, but inside those systems is power, quiet, compounding power. And that is how the 1% win, not by emotional intensity, but by intelligent design that works long after emotion fades. They master their inner dialogue before trying to control the world, because elite thinkers understand that the loudest voice they will ever hear is their own. Before strategy, before action, before influence, there is self-talk, and if that internal conversation is chaotic, negative, or undisciplined, no external success can be sustained. You cannot build a powerful life on a weak internal narrative. Most people let their thoughts run on autopilot. They believe every doubt. They rehearse every fear. They repeat the same limiting stories until those stories feel like facts. Elite thinkers do the opposite. They treat their mind like a command center, not an emotional dumping ground. Every thought is questioned. Every belief is examined, not because they are emotionless, but because they are intentional. They understand that thoughts create emotions, emotions drive behavior, and behavior produces results. If you want different results, you don't start with the world, you start with the voice in your head. That voice can either train you or betray you. The 1% makes sure it trains them. Mastering inner dialogue doesn't mean pretending everything is fine. It means refusing to speak to yourself in ways you would never speak to someone you respect. Elite thinkers don't insult themselves for struggling. They don't spiral into self-hatred when things go wrong. They correct, adjust, and move forward. Their self-talk is firm, honest, and constructive. When pressure hits, the average mind panics. The inner dialogue becomes dramatic. This is too much. I can't do this. I always mess things up. Elite thinkers hear that voice and interrupt it. They replace it with grounded truth. This is uncomfortable, not impossible. I've handled hard things before. I'll handle this too. That shift changes everything. They also understand that confidence is not a feeling, it's a practice. It's built by repeatedly choosing empowering language, not hype, not arrogance, clarity, precision, ownership, instead of I hope this works. They say I'll make this work. Instead of I'm not ready, they say I'll figure it out as I move. Words shape identity, and identity shapes behavior. Elite thinkers don't wait for the world to validate them. They validate themselves internally through discipline and follow through. Every time they keep a promise to themselves, their inner voice gets stronger. Every time they avoid excuses, their self-trust deepens. Over time, that internal stability becomes unshakable. They also know that external control is an illusion. You cannot control people, markets, timing, or outcomes. You can only control your response. That's why they invest their energy inward first. Mastery of self creates influence without force. When your inner world is calm and clear, the outer world becomes easier to navigate. Distractions, criticism, and chaos lose power when your internal dialogue is disciplined. You stop reacting to everything. You stop needing approval. You stop being thrown off course by every opinion. Your decisions come from principle, not pressure. The 1% don't silence doubt, they manage it. Doubt becomes feedback, not a verdict. Fear becomes a signal, not a stop sign. The inner voice becomes a coach, not a critic. And once that mastery is built, controlling the world is no longer the goal. Influence, impact, and success become natural side effects. Because when you lead yourself well, the world doesn't need to be controlled, it responds. Discomfort is not avoided, it's deliberately chosen as a growth tool. Because elite thinkers understand a truth most people spend their lives running from. Everything you want exists on the other side of what you're unwilling to feel. Growth does not come from ease, it comes from tension, resistance, and the willingness to stay present when quitting would bring relief. Most people treat discomfort as a warning sign. If something feels hard, awkward, or uncertain, they assume something is wrong, so they retreat, they delay, they distract themselves. Elite thinkers interpret discomfort differently. To them, discomfort is information. It signals expansion. It means they are stretching beyond who they were yesterday. They understand that comfort is addictive. It feels safe, familiar, and predictable, but comfort also freezes progress. It lulls people into routines that look stable but quietly shrink potential. Elite thinkers choose discomfort because they value growth more than temporary peace. They are willing to feel exposed today to be stronger tomorrow. This doesn't mean chasing pain for the sake of pain. It means being strategic about what kind of discomfort you tolerate. The discomfort of discipline replaces the discomfort of regret. The discomfort of effort replaces the discomfort of stagnation. Elite thinkers choose the discomfort that pays them back. They train themselves to sit inside uncomfortable moments without escaping. When the work feels boring, they stay. When the learning curve feels humiliating, they stay. When self-doubt starts whispering, they stay. They don't rush to numb the feeling or seek validation. They let the discomfort do its job. Discomfort sharpens focus. When things are easy, attention drifts. When things are hard, the mind becomes alert. Elite thinkers use this edge. They lean into difficulty because it demands presence, and presence accelerates learning. They also know that confidence is built through exposure, not affirmation. You don't become confident by waiting until you feel ready. You become confident by repeatedly doing things before you feel ready and surviving the experience. Discomfort becomes proof of capability. Each time they move through it, their tolerance expands. Most people wait for fear to disappear. Elite thinkers move while fear is still there. They don't negotiate with it. They don't dramatize it. They acknowledge it and proceed anyway. Over time, fear loses authority, not because it vanishes, but because it's no longer obeyed. Discomfort also builds resilience. When you voluntarily choose hard things, you train your nervous system to handle pressure. Setbacks stop feeling catastrophic, challenges stop feeling personal. You develop emotional stamina, the ability to stay calm, focused, and decisive when others panic. Elite thinkers schedule discomfort. They don't leave growth to chance. They intentionally place themselves in situations that demand more of them physically, mentally, and emotionally. They know that waiting for life to force discomfort usually comes with higher consequences. Choosing it early keeps the cost low and the control high. Over time, discomfort becomes familiar, not easy but familiar, and what is familiar stops being frightening. That's when separation happens. While others run from hard conversations, hard decisions, and hard work, elite thinkers step forward. They understand that every level of success requires a higher tolerance for discomfort. The life they want demands a version of them that can handle more pressure than their current self. So they train for it. Discomfort is not an enemy, it's a teacher, a gatekeeper, a signal that you are growing into someone new. And those who deliberately choose it don't just grow faster, they grow differently. They grow strong. Focus, discipline, and consistency compound into inevitable separation, and this is the part of success most people underestimate because it doesn't look dramatic in the beginning. There is no explosion, no overnight transformation, no moment where everything suddenly changes. Instead, there is quiet repetition, small decisions made the same way every day, and over time, those decisions create a gap so wide that it looks like talent, luck, or privilege from the outside. Focus is the starting point. Elite thinkers understand that energy scattered is energy wasted. They don't try to do everything. They don't chase every opportunity or react to every distraction. They choose a direction and commit to it. While others are busy being busy, they are being precise. Focus allows depth, and depth is where real progress happens. Most people confuse movement with progress. They fill their days with activity, messages, scrolling, and noise, then wonder why nothing meaningful changes. Elite thinkers eliminate before they add. They protect their attention like it's an asset, because it is. What you focus on repeatedly becomes what you build, whether intentionally or not. Discipline is what keeps focus alive when excitement fades. Motivation is temporary, discipline is trained. Elite thinkers don't wait to feel inspired. They show up because it's who they decided to be. Discipline is not about punishment or restriction, it's about alignment. Doing what matters, even when it's inconvenient, boring, or uncomfortable. They don't negotiate with themselves every morning. The decision has already been made. This removes friction. It saves mental energy. It creates reliability, and reliability is rare. When you become someone who can be counted on by others and by yourself, opportunities naturally increase. Consistency is where the compounding happens. Anyone can be disciplined for a day or a week. Very few can sustain it. Elite thinkers understand that success is less about intensity and more about duration. They choose a pace they can maintain and then refuse to quit. Day after day, week after week, year after year, consistency builds skill, skill builds confidence, confidence builds momentum, and momentum creates separation. Not because elite thinkers are always doing more, but because they are doing the right things for longer. While others stop when results are slow, elite thinkers stay. While others change direction at the first sign of resistance, elite thinkers refine and continue. They trust the process even when there's no applause. Especially when there's no applause, the compounding effect is invisible at first. Early on, it feels unfair. You're putting in effort and seeing little return. This is where most people quit, not because the process doesn't work, but because it doesn't reward immediately. Elite thinkers understand that compounding rewards patience. They stay long enough for the curve to bend. Focus, discipline, and consistency also create identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone who tries and start seeing yourself as someone who does. This identity shift changes how you make decisions. You protect your standards, you stop making excuses, you raise your baseline. Over time, separation becomes unavoidable, the gap widens quietly, same environment. Same starting point, different outcome, not because of luck, but because of repeated choices aligned with long-term vision. From the outside, it may look like sudden success. From the inside, it feels inevitable. Because when focus is clear, discipline is non-negotiable, and consistency is maintained, separation is not a possibility, it's a mathematical outcome.